Dating back to the early days of cinema, the world of horror has delivered audiences some of the most memorable and recognizable characters in pop culture. The 30s and 40s made monsters like Dracula, Wolfman, the Mummy, and Frankenstein's monster unforgettable icons. It wouldn't be until the 1980s that prominent horror characters would once again dominate the pop culture landscape. We, of course, had Freddy Krueger with the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, Jason Voorhees with Friday the 13th, Leatherface continued to swing his chainsaw about, and Michael Myers saw his popularity grow tenfold. Then, the 80s came to an end. By 1989, the major series had faded from public interest, resulting in box office failures from Friday the 13th Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan, A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 5, The Dream Child, and Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers. Entering the 90s, it was safe to say that we sort of hit a dry spell. It was as if the genre itself had suffered an identity crisis, and all of our beloved horror icons were going to have a tough road ahead of them. The first big gimmick that the decade tried to pull for these classic characters was killing them off, putting them out the pasture, casting them aside, sending them to the big campground in the sky. The first up on the chopping block would be our favorite dream stalker, Freddy. After the critical and commercial failure of The Dream Child, New Line Cinema decided to make the sixth Nightmare on Elm Street the last, and they saved the best for last. Or at least that's what the tagline for the movie said anyway.
What's with kids today, huh? No respect.
Freddys Dead was designed to bid farewell to one of contemporary cinema's most iconic boogeymen. While it certainly aims for an epic fill, complete with cameo appearances from the likes of Johnny Depp, Roseanne Barr, and Alice Cooper, and a climatic 3D showdown between Krueger and his estranged and previously unmentioned daughter that takes place within the mind of Krueger himself, it just can't pull it off. This is a character whose first on-screen words were, "This is God," but now has dialogue like, Here, Freddy completes his transformation from horror icon to cartoon character. Even Robert Englund, in his autobiography, Hollywood Monster, describes the sixth nightmare as akin to a Bugs Bunny cartoon, and admits that the filmmakers indeed jumped the shark on this one.
Of course you realize this means war.
But this isn't just jumping the shark. This is the Fonz finding out that the shark was responsible for the death of his long-lost twin brother, and that by jumping over the shark, Fonzie can bring his brother back as a ghost who will inhabit his beloved motorcycle, after which Fonz would travel America solving crimes with his talking haunted motorcycle. That's how over the top this movie is. Speaking of jumping the shark, let's move on to 1993's Jason Goes to Hell.
Why are you going to the camp?
Well, now that Jason's dead,
we're thinking about smoking some dope, having a little premarital sex, and not worry about getting slaughtered.
Now, arguably, the Friday the 13th series jumped the shark way before this ninth installment. After all, the series, up until this point, had given us moments such as As bad and embarrassing as all of those moments were, none of them could ever hold a candle to the embarrassment that is Jason Goes to Hell. If these previous entries to the franchise represent moments where Jason could have jumped the proverbial shark, in Jason Goes to Hell, Jason dons his best Evel Knievel costume, gets rocketed out of a cannon on a mini bike, and pulls a triple backflip over a shark tank in the middle of a fireworks display, while a zombie Jimi Hendrix shreds the Star Spangled Banner. While trying to butcher a towel-clad woman at Crystal Lake, Jason is led into an FBI ambush, shot more than 100 times, and blown up. The only thing is, his big, monstrous heart, oozing with black blood, remains intact. And when his remains are sent for inspection, the coroner, naturally, chows down on the grotty morsel. he now becomes Jason and quickly sets off for Crystal Lake to murder some teens for not using condoms. Everything considered, the film admittedly deserves credit for its boldness. This time around, Jason's supernatural origins are revealed. Apparently, Jason isn't really the person we thought he was. He's more or less an evil spirit that could be transferred from body to body at will. If longtime fans of the Friday the 13th saga had anything to say about it, the people behind this movie would burn in the same place as its hockey mask star.
That part about being reborn through a Voorhees woman, does it have to be a living woman? Duke, that thing's in the basement with Jessica's mother.
Holy Mother of God.
The third iteration of the Texas Chain Saw Massacre franchise attempted to give its lead a standalone film in the same vein as Freddy, Jason, and Michael. When that idea fell through, it seemed that approaching the other popular slasher trope of the 90s was its best bet. Explaining the origins of a killer or what drives them to kill was the cap to the major franchises during this period. So why not do this with Leatherface and his backwards kin as well? Now we learn that Leatherface and his family kill people not by happenstance, but to appease the Illuminati, who are also possibly coordinating these frequent kills to balance the scale of good and evil to appease alien overlords, or something like this. As far as the rest of the movie, we got zero scares, zero nudity, lots of talking, stupid people everywhere.
What if we got into a wreck and we crashed into a car in front of us and we all died? They could write a song about it.
Shut up.
Zero chainsaw deaths, terrible 90s rock music playing during the chase scenes, Leatherface chainsawing down a brick smokestack, Grandpa literally just standing up and walking off the movie, never to be seen again. A dueling remote control battle over Matthew McConaughey's leg. Some unexplained sadist in a limousine, a mysterious crop duster appearance, and the highlight of the film, cameos by some of the original cast members. Simply put, this is one strange movie. Halloween, The Curse of Michael Myers, is frequently labeled the black eye of the Halloween franchise. While it's not a profoundly stimulating picture, it's certainly not the worst in the franchise. That honor goes to Halloween Resurrection, by the way. With that being said, yes, this is another movie that attempts to bestow its central baddie a backstory. Years before Rob Zombie played this game, this Halloween entry tried to give a reasoning for Michael Myers' mass murdering ways. Does that attempt pay off? No, it does not. This origin of Michael Myers' effort resulted in the conception of the quote, Curse of the Thorn, an ancient affliction placed upon Myers when he was a child by the conniving cult of the Thorn, which causes Michael to kill his entire bloodline in order to keep the cult alive. Though, to be fair to the Halloween franchise, it did temporarily redeem itself a few years later with Halloween H2O.
There are more humans alive at this moment than in all its pitiful history. The Garden of Eden. A garden of flesh.
It was the last Hellraiser to be released theatrically, the last to have any major official involvement with series creator Clive Barker, and also the final installment in chronology. Hellraiser Bloodline sends our favorite Cenobite Pinhead to space, the final frontier. While this fourth film of the series remains somewhat watchable and features the prerequisite bodily fluid and gore, Bloodline indeed scrapes the bottom of the barrel with its lackluster and incoherent storytelling, laughable dialogue, and atrocious performances from its no-name cast. Funny bit of trivia, Hellraiser in Space came out the same year as Leprechaun in Space, which makes you wonder, were a couple of rival film execs smoking from the same bong or something at a party? Because you can imagine the two companies' horror department heads sitting around in a dimly lit room with some Pink Floyd on the stereo, passing a bong around and saying, Geez, we want to make a 4th Hellraiser movie, but we can't quite figure out where to take it.
What have you done?
After Wes Craven's Scream was released in 1996, horror went off in a whole other direction, and it took a long time for our beloved icons to recover, if they ever did recover. We finally got our Freddy vs. Jason movie in 2003, which was well over a decade too late, but still a surprisingly fun ride. Leatherface went the reboot route with a gritty new take that doesn't hold a candle to the original, but is still decent in its own right. Michael Myers has been all over the place. With so many sequels and reboots / remakes, it's hard to keep track. And as far as Pinhead, that guy probably should have never been given a franchise to begin with. The original Hellraiser is terrific, but man, those movies just got worse and worse over time. So yeah, while these guys are still doing their thing to various degrees, let us all agree that the 1990s did these fellows dirty. Now, let's end on a more lighthearted note. Here's Michael Myers bringing joy to a little child's life. Thanks for watching, guys.
I love you.